The terms, or are we going into the
Okay,
actual?
so this is the last class. We're going to try to finish chapter 8 today. And then chapter 9 is when we take all the information. The first 8 chapters of Tanya is a lot of information and definitions of terms, like a doctor. If you want to become a doctor, first you have to, learn all the terminology, learn all the medical books, and then, you go to the hospital and you actually go to the emergency room and we start real training. So the first 8 chapters of Tanya is really giving us a lot of information. Another example is if you want to bake a cake. So first, the first 8 chapters is like the list of the ingredients. First, you have to make sure you have all the ingredients, take it out on the counter, and then you could start the recipe. So the what we've been talking about up until this point, the first 5 chapters of Tanya, we were speaking about holiness and the neshama and all the good stuff. And then we said that everything that's holy and good is balanced with evil, because Hashem created the world, Zelu Mazeh Bara Lekim, there's an equal balance. So then we spoke about the opposite, the other side of holiness in 6, 7, and 8. And we're finishing talking about the difficult stuff in this chapter. And then in chapter 9, that's when we take all this information, we apply it to our life, we apply it to the battle inside of us that we deal with at every minute of every day.
I was going to propose, I don't know if what you think, but maybe next week we should do a review.
Okay, so we'll talk.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to be wrapping up all the terms.
Okay, so the thing is that all this information from chapter 1 through 8 we're gonna all come back to it.
Okay, so we're gonna review it
as we go along. The other part of this chapter actually, or primarily, is talking about what happens after a person passes away. So it's not necessarily the most fun topics. So we're doing today 4 of Rabbi Ari Shishro's classes because I wanted to just, say whatever has to be said and move on to, to more practical stuff. So I'm saying come back to the next class, please. Don't let this scare you away. Okay. So up until now, we spoke about food. And we said as follows, that in this world, approximately 5% of this world is holy. And any person, Jewish or non-Jewish, would testify that this is holy. For example, a Torah scroll, a mezuzah, tefillin, these kind of things, everyone knows this is a Jewish holy object. Then there's about 5% of stuff in this world that everyone knows is toxic, for sure for a Jew, whether it be not kosher food, not kosher relationships, not kosher entertainment, etc. Then there's 90% left, and that is what we call neutral. And then the human being comes in contact with it, and we decide what is going to happen. What is going to be the fate of the cookie, of the water bottle, of the milk, of the notebook, of the pad, of the coffee? We decide what's going to happen to it. There's 2 choices. Either it's going to go up and be elevated to the service of Hashem, or it's going to go down. It's going to go down to the other side of holiness. Everything, it's either kedusha, either it's holiness, and for Hashem, or it's on the other side of holiness, and when we're not mindful and we're not using the energy for Hashem. Either we're serving Hashem or we're not serving Hashem. It's one or the other. So the 90% of stuff is gray area, and we could choose, is it going to be black or white? But everything is in the gray area, 90% is in the gray area, but we are either in white or black at any given moment. So we said, if I eat a cookie and I said I'm eating the cookies, I can have the energy to serve Hashem, then I elevated it. If I ate the cookie and I did not have Hashem in mind, I just ate it because I was hungry. then the cookie went down into something that we call klipa. Klipa means a peel or a shell, which is covering over godliness. And if it's kosher, it's kosher. It didn't do anything wrong by eating a cookie. So it goes down to this klipa, to this peeled shell temporarily. The second I come to a Tanya shir, the second I daven, the second I do a mitzvah with the energy from the cookie, then the energy of the energy that of the cookie, the energy that I got from eating the cookie is elevated. There's a reverse, like you made a wrong turn, right? Made a wrong turn. Now you're going to go make a U-turn and bring the energy back up to Hashem. Wonderful. But there's, welcome. But every single minute has to be accounted for. And there was a period of time, maybe it was 5 minutes, maybe it was 10 minutes, maybe it was 2 hours, until you chapsach some seichel, until you turned the car around, until you made that U-turn and brought back the energy from the cookie to serve Hashem. There was time where the food was being digested, where it wasn't for the sake of Hashem. So therefore, after a person passes away, the body decomposes. It's actually called something called chibut hakever, and it means the decomposing of the body in the grave, and that's just a natural thing that we know. But the reason that it happens is to release the neshama from all the pleasure that it had, even temporarily, until it was turned around to serve Hashem. So that's one thing that we discussed last time. Okay. Now, if a person ate not kosher food, chas v'shalom, so not kosher food, even if you have all the great intentions, you want to use the energy that you got from the not kosher food to daven or to learn or whatever it is, you can't. It's stuck. It's stuck in 3 impure klipos until Mashiach comes, or until a person does such a great teshuvah that his sins turn into merits, which we spoke about in other classes, because he hit rock bottom, and the fact that he was so far away, that's what made him bring him back. That's what brought him back closer to Hashem. So therefore, we have this incredible opportunity called the tshuva gedayla, and that could take the energy from the 3 impure klipos and bring it back up. But still, in any case, the time that it wasn't used to serve Hashem, for that we have something called that's the decomposing of the body. Okay, moving on. Now we're going to so we spoke about food. Now we're going to talk about something that is less tangible, and that is our words. The first category is something that's called Devarim B'Telim. Devarim B'Telim is when we just talk without any godly purpose. It could be about the news, it could be about what you ate for supper, it could be anything that's just random, that's nothing bad, but it's not for Hashem. The weather, whatever it is, just regular stuff. And Devarim B'Telim we're talking about a category of people that we would call Amei Haaretz, which are people that, for no fault of their own, they are not obligated in limud Torah because maybe they don't have the brain capacity, or maybe Torah is not accessible to them. So it's not like they're doing something wrong by speaking Devarim B'Telim, because we don't have that expectation of them. They don't have the obligation of limud Torah because Torah is not accessible to them. So we don't have any. So them just wasting time and just speaking just words is not something bad or wrong for them, because they're not able to learn Torah. Today we don't have Amei Haaretz, because today Torah is accessible to everyone. So we don't have that excuse. We could find and anyone with, whether it be books, whether it be classes, whether it be podcasts, whether it be everything translated into English or many other languages. So today we don't have this concept of Ami Aretz isn't so prevalent today. But let's say a situation where someone is just speaking just talk or nonsense, whatever it is, and we don't have, and it's not they're doing anything wrong because there is no expectation for them to be learning Torah at that time. So what happens? So for just Dvarim B'Telim, you're not speaking for the sake of Hashem, just Sam. So after 120, there's something called Kaf Hakela, which means that the neshama is thrown from one side to the other. And basically what happens is when a person just speaks, just plain words, it's like a ball falling in the dust. So it's not so hard to get rid of the dust. You just throw the ball once or twice and all the dust just falls right off. So this is called kafa kela, and that happens to neshama after 120 for all the dvarim b'telim that they said to get rid of it. It's like if you have a rug and you want to get rid of the dust, you hang the rug on with a couple of clothespins and you just, give it a few clap and all the dust comes off. So it's relatively easy to remove that. So before we even continue any further, we have to just say that this freeing the neshama is actually a gift. The fact that we're able to get rid of the dvarim b'telim, we're able to get rid of the pleasures that tie down, that make the neshama heavy. It's actually a gift. So this week I was telling Suri that I was driving carpool to Cheder. It's over an hour away. And all of a sudden one of the kids says, Mrs. Garari, my brother is stuck. The seatbelt is stuck. I was like, okay. I pull over to the side of the road. And somehow the seatbelt, it wasn't seatbelted in, but somehow the seatbelt itself was wrapped around this kid's stomach in such a way that I don't know how it happened. I cannot figure out how it happened, but this kid is stuck in a seatbelt, pressing very, very tightly against his stomach, and there's nothing that I could do to wiggle him out of it. And I'm 45 minutes from Tom's River, a half hour from North Brunswick, and I'm like with a car with 12 kids under the age of 12, and what am I supposed to do? So I called the mother. She said, no choice, you have to call the police. We called the police. The police came with a knife and slashed the seatbelt. There was no other way to get the kid out. And then after that, the policeman didn't let me go. I need my license and everything like that. I had to sign a million things. I don't know what I was signing my life away. And then
Probably have to have like big car seats or something.
I was worried. I was like, how many tickets am I going to get now? And then the police wouldn't let me go. He said, oh, we have to call the EMT to make sure the kid is fine, which he was. I mean, it was very obvious that he was fine. Anyway, the EMT came and the 5-year-old kid, he wouldn't let the EMT get close to him. So, at the end, he just, they just let us go. But so so what I learned from this experience is this: what it means. The neshama is stuck. The neshama is stuck. By freeing the neshama, by cutting that seatbelt and letting that kid breathe, literally, it was the biggest gift. I saw it in front of my eyes. I saw it in front of my eyes. And this is what it means, that when the neshama comes down here, it's in a body. And when the body just has pleasure, it's making the neshama heavy. It's holding the neshama down. And if you're being held down in that seatbelt, all the hot air balloons in the world are not able to lift you up. Nothing could get this kid out. So it was the biggest gift that the police came and let him free. So these kind of things, you say, oh, kafakela and chibata kever and the other things we're talking about, oivei, but really the fact that neshama has the opportunity to free itself from the dust, from the stains, from the whatever it is actually really it's actually really a gift. Okay. Now what happens if a person spoke words that were negative? And it gives a few examples. The first example that it gives is something called leitzanus. Leitzanus has the word leitzan, the clown. So where does it say in the Torah that you can't clown around? What does it mean, leitzanos? Leitzanos means, imagine that you're giving a speech. Maybe there's 100 teenagers in the room, and you're saying a very inspiring story, and there's an opportunity here to inspire all the people, all the teenagers. And all of a sudden, one teenager stands up and says, do you really believe that? That could never have happened. To put a seed of doubt into everyone's mind. Tamalik, to cool it off for everyone. Exactly. That is what leitzanos means. When you're dismissive, when you're cynical, and you have when you burst the bubble, when you pop the balloon, and you derail everybody, and there was a potential for inspiring everyone, and then it just got lost. That's what it means. So that's negative talk, to just throw everyone off. That's the first example, and that is Taka Amalek. And it says about Amalek, Asher karcha baderech. So the word karcha has the word kar in it, which means cold. What does he do? The Jewish people are compared to a boiling hot bathtub. Everyone was too afraid to come near the Jewish people, and they said, "Oh, it's not so hot." Amalek got burnt. The first person who puts their toe in the boiling hot bathtub gets burnt, but it cools it off everybody else. So that's one example of negative talk. And then, of course, you have Lashon Hara. Even though Lashon Hara is true, you're saying true information, but it's bad information. And the reason why Lashon Hara is so toxic is because when you label someone, oh, they're so stingy, they're so, haughty, they're so snobby, whatever it is, what happens is that negative label sticks to them and kind of imprisons them in that negative light. Rabbi Shishler said that there was an individual who came over to him and said, I haven't come to shul in 10 years because I thought that a certain individual who was spreading rumors about me, I thought that he told you. I thought he told you about me, something bad about me, and therefore I was too embarrassed to come to anything. So it's a real thing. It's really negative and toxic. And again, saying negative things that are false. So anything that, again, this is speech, and it's not something tangible like food, but it really, really affects the neshama. So now the rug, not just is there dust on it that you could just, give a little patch and throw it and everything will fall away, but now there's a stain. So how are we going to get rid of the stain? So it's like with koshering. However, the thing became treif, that is how you make a kosher again. So if I had a milchik spoon and I used it to mix cholent, right? So it was with heat. The milchik spoon became treif with heat, and therefore, how am I going to kosher it again with heat? If I took a fleshik spoon and I used it to scoop out dairy ice cream, which was freezing cold, so then it's not as the process is just is not as difficult. The way it became treif, that's the method that I use to make it kosher again. So in this case, the Lashon Hara was spoken with a lot of passion, a lot of excitement, a lot of heat. Oh, did you hear? Right? So that's all like fire. And therefore, how do we get rid of the stain? It's through Gehenim Shel Eish. Okay, Gehenim of fire. Now we say Gehenim, everyone's already imagining, a big pit with a fire. And first of all, we have to understand that when we're saying Gehenim, it's spiritual. There is no burning fire. There's no barbecue. We're not barbecuing any neshamas over here. All that is coming from other religions. There's no fire. And also when we say Gehenim, it's not like, neshama comes to heaven, and then if either they go up to Gan Eden or they go down the chute to Gehenim. There is no such thing. There is no chute, there's no up and down. The whole thing is just in our minds, what we think, but it's really not the case. To explain this concept of Gehenim, what would that mean, what that would mean, and to explain that it's not about a certain place, that Gan Eden is here and Gehenim is over there, that's all physical stuff. For example, We could all be taking a test. And the test is a test of life. And everyone takes the test. Everyone studies for the test. Everyone takes the test. And then the next day, the professor gives back the tests. One person gets a very nice big black A, and another person gets an F. The person that got an A, he's in Gan Eden, because all the work that he worked, it all pays off. And then the person who got an F, he's in Gehenna. So there are two people. They're in the same exact room. One is experiencing Gan Eden, and one is experiencing Gehenna. So it's not like in a certain place. This is where Gehenna is. This is where Gan Eden is. You could both be in the same. Sorry about that. You could both be in the same space, and it's your experience. You know, you could have two people around the same table, and there's peanut butter ice cream being served, and one person, for them, is the biggest pleasure, and the other person, it's the most dangerous thing because they're allergic to peanuts. So it could have two people in the same place, and it's all about the experience. It's not about a certain physical space. Okay. Also, another very important point is that when we're talking about Gehenna, which we think, oh, is punishment, we have to realize that punishment is only bad if the person who's punishing wants to take revenge. But if the person that's punishing loves you, then it's not then it's not bad. For example, a parent is trying to discipline their child. A parent truly loves their child. They're not, they're giving them a consequence to educate them. So it's not that after 120 years, Hashem or there's a devil or whatever that's trying to take revenge for the fact that the Yid didn't use every single second for Hashem. But rather, as we said, it's a favor, it's a gift, it's to cleanse the neshama. If a child is outside on a hot summer day, they're schwitzing, boiling hot, and they were playing in the mud, making sand castles or mud castles, and the kid comes in and he's completely muddy, and the parent picks up the child and puts the kid in the bathtub, and the kid is kicking and screaming. Is that a punishment? It's not a punishment. It's the parent loves the child and needs to give the kid a bath because he's just full of mud.
Feel though, when we're up there, do we feel that Hashem is doing it out of love? Do we feel His love up there?
I absolutely, yeah.
100% clarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also that you're imagining yourself as a physical being. Your neshama is a different entity
Right.
than your guf is.
Right.
Your
So how is pain experienced then?
Okay.
Here.
So-
you're
It's emotional.
feeling
I think
you're
I heard the
feeling
word
your physical
shame.
body.
It's exactly, it's shame.
It's a shame feeling.
Regret and shame.
Regret and shame, yeah,
Yeah.
which is like an emotional experience.
It's like when you have an
Yeah.
opportunity to
Yeah.
invest $1 and get $1 billion,
Wow.
and then
you
you're
missed
like,
it.
I would tear my hair out.
Yeah,
But it's even different than that. It's like the shame when you do something wrong and or not
It's
not
incredible
even
shame.
money.
It's an
It's like when you
incredible
do something.
regret.
It's like when you do something wrong at like emotionally, like
Right, even
like
over
when-
here now in this world, we
Yeah,
experience
that's
it.
what I'm saying. Like when you do
Yes.
something wrong, when you have an
Right.
opportunity to do something very right and you did it
Right.
wrong, and you feel that like
Yeah,
massive
so
regret
that means
come
Gehenna
over
is
you,
already in
know?
this world. When you regret,
Sometimes there's a Gehenna
when
in
you
this world.
regret what you're doing,
Sometimes
that's
there's
Gehenna.
Gehenna in this
And
world.
sometimes we
Big regret, like when you interact with people, you sometimes feel that.
embarrassing to do that.
it says that if you put your hand in your pocket and you want to take out a quarter and instead you take out a dime, that inconvenience in this world is sometimes we experience things in this world and then it makes what's supposed to happen in heaven much, much less.
Right.
So maybe if a person experiences shame in this world, then he doesn't have to go through that much after 120. Yeah.
All the misconceptions about Gehenna and Gan Eden too, because we're picturing it in our physical selves. When we feel pain, in our physical selves, that's why people are like, it must hurt, or like, and we're picturing it in our physical selves,
Right, we're
but it's not
picturing
a
it as physical
physical
things, right.
experience. It's not,
Right.
it's a total not physical experience. It's not physical. And maybe that's why we grow up and our children grow up with so much fear around
They say
it.
burn,
And
they're taking the burn,
misconception
the people think
around it.
fire, burn.
That's
And
like
it's so-
crushed in hell.
Yeah, we always think, kids say that.
Scary
I think
and
about fire.
there's so much, yeah.
When I was a child, I thought it was a fire, I thought it was a
Yeah.
fire.
So there's no real fire.
I just
There's
know
no-
that, kids grow up that way, I mean,
Daily
that's
basis,
changing.
some of this.
And
Well, there's a
the role is becoming different, but years ago they taught that.
Well, there's a whole switchover to more of that love mentality.
Now you're gonna burn
That's
it.
true.
There's so much fear around the whole conception of like what is
When you're scared, you're like,
That's why, because there's so much fear built around it. The concept of like, he's
Right.
gonna get you and he's just.
Right, so we have to change that. We're here to change that.
The whole concept has to be taught totally differently.
You go to your room.
Yes. Yeah.
You were doomed.
So,
Not only that, there has to be a certain responsibility for action, but the responsibility has to be taught in a different way. Like, you're responsible, and there is a din v'cheshbon, but what is that din? And how is that din given out? And what your neshama really wants?
That's what I mean, I don't know.
What does your neshama
Right.
want?
and I think also, 100%, I think also we, the takeaway of this parak should be that if all this is true, we're talking about all this negative, if all this is true, that when we spoke negatively, this is the effect. Could you imagine what happens when we speak positively about someone, what that accomplishes? And the fact that we have so much power, that every single word that comes out of our mouth really has a big impact on our neshama and on everyone else around us. When we say, what you do, what you say, how you act really, really matters. It's not like I could say something and the energy went nowhere. For every minute of every day, we can't just waste time and we can't just waste words, and we can't and basically how much Hashem entrusts in us and how Hashem views us and how Hashem gives us a life to live, and how what we do really, really matters.
It's like this week's password, you put Mechaimin on the Sifra. Like Moshe's, one of the week, Moshe's name is not in this week.
Right.
He said Mechaimin on the Sifra stove.
Wow.
His words were very powerful.
Wow. Just like Moshe said, if Hashem wanted to wipe out the Jewish people before the Chet Egel. And so Moshe Rabbeinu said, and then Hashem said, okay, I'll start a new nation with you. Moshe said, no. If you wipe out the Jewish people, wipe me out from your Torah. And the truth is that Hashem didn't destroy the Jewish people. Moshe said, if you wipe out the Jewish people, then erase me from your Torah. Just the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu said,
The power of words.
the power of words, just the fact that he said it already, it had to come about in some small way. Yes, thank you for bringing that out. Okay, so basically this, this negative talk, it's basically, look at it like a kidney stone. There's a blockage. There's a blockage between us and Hashem, and you need some kind of laser to get rid of the blockage. So, for the person's survival. So whenever there's a stain, whenever there's something that's in between us and Hashem, the fact that we could have the ability to get rid of it is actually a big favor. What is it?
I'm gonna get painkillers.
Yeah, but ultimately it's, and also we also have to realize that it's not forever. It's not a person who's finding in Gehenna forever, because when a person passes away, they were lived 120 years. Relative to that, we say a Kaddish for 11 months, because the longest amount of time that the biggest Russia could need cleansing is for a year.
And you're the Shnama, so you're good.
Yeah.
By learning Tanya, I learned that I'm not, I see this, I guess. I learned that I'm not a bad person who's gonna learn that I'm not so good. You see, I came.
Some people need to learn you're not bad.
Good. So slowly by learning Tanya, I'm ingesting that. But it's still frightening to know that and sunset, I won't be able to hide behind my mother's skirt.
Okay, first of all, Mashiach is coming.
Out there, like.
Yeah.
You know?
So first of all, Mashiach is coming immediately.
In front of everybody, like, no, everyone looking to this.
No, everyone has their own. Everyone's busy. Yeah, I always say, I always think that.
Is that it's gonna be in front of everyone who knows me, like, here's the shame, of what you did, everyone's gonna know everything I did. like-
I don't think so.
Shuba, it covers it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also when the kids spend, comes the Shabbaton, high school Shabbaton, everyone's so busy with what they're gonna wear, and I laugh. I say everyone is so busy about what they're gonna wear that they don't care about what you're wearing. It's okay.
Very well said, you, they pick themselves.
Right. Everyone's
We come specifically for words.
yes.
And is there tshuva for words, or this is just like what we said, like for that time that it existed?
You
is
say,
what it is.
and chitz, the word.
I know, but I'm according to
Well, the
this.
tshuva gdola is always there. I mean, if your sinning brought you to a place where you had a new gain, where you grew from that.
So that occurs with these words as well?
That's a very good question. I asked that question. And I don't have 100% of an answer for it. This teshuva gedela, yes, you see, you're forgiven.
Right.
You're
The
forgiven.
entity still exists.
The
what you
words-
created still exists.
Like
But I'm saying
started with the feathers,
yeah.
you could never collect the feathers you got
Right.
out there. You can't go collect what.
Right.
Right,
The damage that
okay.
was done.
So is that,
Because it's all everlasting.
Right.
is
So
there tshuva gedela for
So,
words?
so you see, we spoke about the Shuba Gedela, and then after we spoke about Shuba Gedela, now we have all these other bits and pieces
That are almost exceptions.
that are almost exceptions.
So is this part of that?
So it seems like even if I did teshuva, I said I'm sorry. There's a Uncle was it Uncle Pinchy? Did anyone see that video of Uncle Pinchy?
Puppets?
Yeah, puppets. So this boy, he goes to it was Uncle Pinchy's birthday, and he's 100 years old, and he says, and the grandson is having a conversation with him. He's like, "Oh, did you ever have any trouble?" So he said, "Yeah, when I was a little boy, I went to the bakery, and I asked for a blueberry muffin, and he ate the blueberry muffin, and he got sick. He got sick. He had to go to the hospital. He was so sick, and he told everyone that this baker had spoiled muffins, and then no one would go to the bakery to buy anything because of the spoiled food. And then it turned out a week later he found out that he was allergic to blueberries. In the meantime, the guy lost his parnasa. So okay, so even if you go and you tell everyone it really wasn't true and whatever, okay, but there's damage that's done. So yeah, that's just for a kid, like a kid story. But I'm sure, if there's mighty shamra or lashon hara being said about someone, could really destroy a person. And then once you plant that in someone's head, you can't undo it. So I guess these are kind of a tshuva gedayla, still tshuva gedayla, and you could still do teshuva, and you could still get forgiveness, and the person that you hurt could still forgive you. But there's this toxic energy that the neshama has to deal with after 120 to free it from this kind of stuff. So knowing this, it shouldn't depress us.
But it's the opposite is true as well. Like when you do something good and the rewards are everlasting. Like when you do something good and that it spreads. It's
Absolutely,
the
absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
not everlasting. The baby is not
No, but
everlasting.
words,
The mitzvah
that's like-
is.
Yes.
No, but like you worried about words, that
Right.
you said something and it could continue. So but the
Right.
same thing with the mitzvah. When you do
Right.
something good and then the person is helped, but his generations are helped also. Just
Right.
that should hearten you to make you feel good, that if you help one person and then they got mechazik and then they're able to be a better person for it and then their children and everything. So
Right.
it should hearten you.
Yes.
It should
Yeah.
hearten you. Now his husband could.
I once
Okay.
I led
Right.
the Rebbe, and he said, when my brother got engaged, he says, he was zeicha to such a good girl because he did a taiva for a Yid. My brother used to work for Shamrim and Crown Heights.
Wow.
A lot of people. And he says, and when we did a taiva for a Yid, did man a taiva for David Davis.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
in English.
When you do a favor for someone, then when you do a favor for someone, then the ramifications of it in a good way last for generations.
You don't know how this husband just pile up. That's it.
Our kind word to somebody,
Mhm.
you make their day, and then it really flows to all the generations. All that you're affecting so many people with just one kind word.
Yeah,
One compliment. We never know.
100%. Yeah, there was there's a story of someone that wanted to commit suicide, and they wrote a note. If you see this note, then it means that I jumped. If on the way to the bridge, someone stops and says hello to me, then I won't jump. And it could be just there's another story. A teenage kid, felt so depressed and dejected and wanted to take her life. She's walking home and had a whole bunch of books in her hand, and then she dropped the books, and someone came and helped her pick up the books. And she's like, if there's kindness in the world, then I won't take my life. So you don't know what a person is going through, and what you could say to really make a difference. Okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, I guess the prerequisite, this would be to understand, someone's like, does not know about the concept of Lashon Hara, like they're a teenage mishpah, they're not religious, they never heard of it. And so they're not technically held accountable for the sin or whatever, the ramification still exists. So it sort of probably performs the same category of why Shuvah doesn't work.
It works, but still after 120, there's still,
So
unless
even someone that wouldn't be held accountable for this because they didn't know about it, probably the ramifications are also still there.
yeah, so basically what we're talking about is we're saying that every moment we're accountable for every moment, and that this concept of, I could just sit back and waste my time, I have free time and I could just waste it, is not a Jewish concept. The Jewish concept is that we have to be mindful, and that every minute that we're given from Hashem is a gift, and that we have to really utilize every minute for Torah or for serving Hashem, or to be mindful of Hashem as much as we can. And we might not be able to change our lives around like this, but they say that if every person would actually give Meiser, there wouldn't be any hungry people. Sometimes a person could give a very big check, but it's not necessarily, they're not actually giving 10% of their earnings. So if we could just take 10% of our words and be mindful 10% of the time, we could make a big big change in the world.
When you say the good of the Thailand, so many times we speak to people also, even if it seems like empty words, we're connecting with somebody.
I was thinking, if you
Yes.
need to take it, talking about the weather to make someone feel.
But it's
good,
not the
right?
Taylor.
But
Right.
it's not the same,
Right.
it's for a positive
Right.
purpose.
I want to tell something, maybe women are anyways considered Aretz technically, because we're not obligated. No, we're not obligated in learning.
Okay, so yeah, let's discuss that right now.
Yeah.
We're not
Okay.
obligated in learning.
Not about to say.
I know, but really, halacha, you're not obligated to study every moment.
Okay, so
learning.
let's talk about it. Okay, Talmud Torah, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Why are women not obligated in mitzvah of Talmud Torah? Because Talmud Torah goes into the category of a mitzvah that is time bound. You have to learn Torah Perek Echad Shacharis, Perek Echad Arvis, whatever it is. So there's a time. It's a part of the mitzvahs that are time bound, and women are not obligated in mitzvahs that are time bound. Okay. However, a few things. Number one, women are obligated to learn, number one, all the halachas that pertain to them,
Right.
whether it be kosher, whether it be Shabbos, whether it be Taras Mishpacha, okay? And we have mitzvahs that are constant, like loving Hashem and fearing Hashem, etc. And how are we going to have love and fear? How are we going to develop a love and fear of Hashem? That only comes through learning Torah and learning Chassidus.
But it's
So-
not like if you have a moment where you didn't learn, then you're held
Okay,
accountable.
okay.
The same way
So,
a man is.
if you're raising your children and you have raising children, taking care of your house, taking care of your family on one side, and learning Torah on the other side, then yes, taking care of your family overrides the obligation of learning Torah. However, if you have free time means that all your kids are in school, the house is perfectly clean,
Oh,
okay? Shabbos is closed. Okay, if, hypothetically speaking, if it was to happen, okay, but what
yeah.
happens
You never
is,
read a magazine, you never drink a
Ah,
coffee.
ah.
Times I'm free, like I'm saying here.
Times that you're
You're sitting right here.
No, you're allowed to do
You're
something.
sitting right here. This is what she means. Like, look, you're taking this time and you're doing it.
To be here, I.
Well, I mean, if they really went above and beyond,
Okay,
Well,
so,
then you text it.
okay, so if you,
I have work, I'm saying like I took an hour out of my day and I'm here.
that's incredible.
It's amazing.
There's always what to do.
But let's say a person is scrolling on their phone for an hour, okay? You're scrolling on your phone for an hour, wasting time. Okay, so if you're wasting time, who's to say if you had free time, and you're wasting it, who's to say that you have a free pass from learning Torah? If you have the time to waste, to sit and, watch whatever, then who says that you're free from learning Torah? Okay, downtime to serve Hashem, to reach.
That's
Okay.
part of being healthy.
Yes.
It's not-
That's fine. That's fine.
That's not what I was saying. I was just saying that if you're not about putting that doing something dead and watching someone they shouldn't, or like wasting a valuable. It's not schmoozing, devarim, the tailor. I don't know if a woman is held accountable for that.
So we're saying that there is a what we're trying to change our perspective a little bit,
Yeah.
and to say, if I'm schmoozing to be nice to another person for some godly purpose, 100% fine. Fine. But if I'm just schmoozing, wasting and there's no benefit, and it's not for Hashem. No, it depends. It depends where your mind is. It's all about being mindful.
It makes me a better mother, it makes me a better wife, and it makes me happy is one mahala.
And if it's just rubbish, if it's just garbage, then who's to say that you have a free pass from learning Torah? Okay, let's move on. Okay. Also, it's very important in this conversation to understand that there's a pasuk that says Hayom la'asaisam. We are here to work and to do. We don't have to sit and worry about what's going to happen after 120 years. The only reason why we're mentioning it briefly is to understand the severity of speaking negatively. But just like if a player is playing on the field, you want the player to play, not that his eyes are on the scoreboard. It's distracting. So we have to be fully in to serve Hashem, to be as mindful as we can of Eibishter, and that's what we have to do. We don't have to worry about what's going to be after 120. We'll burn, I won't burn, how much shame. We shouldn't waste our time getting depressed about that, but rather we should just be here to serve Hashem as much as we can. And we're just touching upon all these topics just for us to understand that when we do speak positively, and we do have a good attitude, and we have simcha, and we're nice, and we give a compliment, how incredible that is, and then we have something juicy at the tip of our tongue, and we could hold ourselves back from because of what we learned. The knowledge is power. To understand that every minute is so valuable and so precious, and not to waste it, like this mashal of this guy. I must have said it, one of my favorite mashalim, especially when I was a kid. This guy who was very, very poor, and he found out that if he goes a distance of 10 years, takes a ship. If he takes a ship, which only goes once in 10 years to this far remote island, over there's precious gems. on the floor. So he says goodbye to his family and he takes a 3-week travel to go to this far, far flung island. And Taka comes there and there's diamonds all over the floor, rubies, sapphires, everything amazing. And he walks into a restaurant. This guy hadn't had a good meal his whole life. He orders a 10-course meal. He eats his heart out, and then comes time to pay. The waiter comes with the bill. He says, "No problem. I'll go outside, pick up a few diamonds, and pay my bill." So the waiter says, "No, no, no. You don't understand. Over here, anyone can go outside and pick up diamonds. Over here, the currency is chicken fat. You don't have chicken fat. Go to the back of the kitchen and start washing dishes." And that's what he has to do to pay for his meal. And when he first got there, he was so excited that he filled his pockets with the diamonds. But then shortly afterwards, he realized that the currency here is chicken fat, and he started working, and he became a very wealthy chicken fat. He owned tons and tons of chicken fat. And after 10 years, the boat comes to take him back home. He fills 3 boatloads full of chicken fat. And he sends a telegram to his wife, "I'm coming on this day." The whole town comes out. Talk about shame. The whole town comes out to greet him. And the stench from the chicken fat is so horrible that everyone runs away. And the only one that's left on the dock is the wife and kids. And there's 3 boatloads full of chicken fat. And he comes and he says, "I'm home. And look how wealthy I am." And his wife said, "Are you kidding me? Just dump all the chicken fat into the ocean. This is not what you went for." And he realizes that's the shame. He realizes that he could have brought home 3 boatloads full of diamonds, and he came back with 3 boatloads of chicken fat. But luckily, in the clothing that he wore from the first day that he got there was full of diamonds. And with those diamonds, he was able to pay his debts and provide for his family. But he had so much more opportunity. It's so much more opportunity to pick up so much more diamonds, and here he brought back chicken fat. And the Neshama comes down to this earth to collect diamonds, to collect Torah mitzvahs. What happens is very, very quickly we get distracted and we think that chicken fat is what we're here to collect. And after 120, all of a sudden we realize, oh, the diamonds, oh, I forgot what I went for. So to pick up as many diamonds as we can, and that's what we're learning, to keep ourselves on track, to motivate us to make every day count. Okay. So when we're on this earth, we only have our 5 senses. We're only aware of things that we could see, that we could hear, that we could touch, that we could eat, that we could smell. But once an neshama comes up there's a totally different level of awareness. Here we see what we see, but it's all limited. Everything's covered up with a bunch of klipa. We don't see the truth. But up in heaven, when the neshama goes back and sees, oh, what it could have done, then there's that incredible shame category. That's it. Let's see if it goes back by itself. Okay, hopefully we'll go back by itself. Okay, now we'll talk about another category. We spoke about Dvarim B'Telim. We spoke about things that are negative. Now we're going to speak about someone who has the obligation to learn Torah and wastes their time. He had an opportunity to learn Torah and wastes it. So now for that, there are punishments or rectification. I don't know what this is doing.
I like the word rectification. Punishment has such a
Negative connotation.
yeah,
It's not really a punishment,
it's
also
weird.
not. It's really just to get you back to that
Right,
place.
so rectification is, because the way we were taught, punishment is just not a good word to use, because we see it as, like monsters coming to get us. So I like that you say rectification.
Okay, we'll try to stay that. We'll stick with that. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So now we're talking about a person who had the obligation to learn Torah, whether it be men, whether it be women. You had the free time. You really had free time, and then what happens is there's rectification in addition to the rectification that's necessary for anyone who had the opportunity to do a mitzvah aseh and didn't do it. You had free time to do a mitzvah, and you were too lazy. And you let it go. Not that you really have to carpool and You had real free time and you just didn't do it because you were lazy. So then there's a different kind of Gehenim. It's called Gehenim Shel Sheleg, which is Gehenim of snow. And it doesn't mean that there's a blizzard. It doesn't mean that your fingers are frostbitten. What it does mean is, again, the rectification has to match what went wrong. And that is here, a person who let go, who didn't take the opportunity for a mitzvah aseh, what happens is that they're apathetic, they're cold. It's the opposite of the passion. And then what's the Gehenim? What is Gehenim Shel Sheleg? Where you are frozen, meaning that you are inactive. Have you ever had a dream, maybe when you were 5, that monsters were chasing you and you couldn't move? So that's what it means, Gehenim Shel Sheleg, which means that the neshama is dying to do another mitzvah, but it's frustrated because it can't do any mitzvahs anymore. Now that it's in heaven, it can't eat matzah, it can't bench a little of an esrog. The neshama is inactive, the neshama is frozen. It wants to do, and so
Once we come up,
so
Big Rebels also used to do it down here, I guess maybe that they shouldn't get it up there.
did
Yeah,
what?
that's the story, the big
the
rebels.
snow.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
My
so
father used to.
Oh,
do
they-
that.
they-
For the previous generations.
Yeah.
Do what?
Roll in the snow, it's called, what's called
It has
something.
They
Has
roll
a
in the
name.
snow.
What's it called?
Um,
Has a name.
does have
Big
a-
Rebels used to do it. The mechappers, maybe it's because they'd rather do it
Gilgal-
down here than up there.
Go Hashara.
No,
But we
different
all
name.
can't do mitzvahs there, not regardless. of
Right,
what we
right.
consider.
So basically, what we're saying is, if a person didn't do a mitzvah aseh because they were lazy, then they're not feeling the shame, the fiery shame. Their face is not red with shame, but rather it's a frustration. It's a frustration that they want to do something and they're inactive, and it's a payback, whatever. It's a rectification for the fact that they were lazy and didn't take the opportunity in this world. So in addition to that, so that goes for all mitzvahs aseh that a person had the opportunity to do and didn't do. And then in addition to that, there's more rectification because learning Torah is Hashem's Torah. And if a person had the opportunity to learn Torah and didn't, it's like it says Dvar Hashem Biza. They disgraced Hashem's word, and therefore there's more rectification that has to happen for someone who's mevatel.
And has the opportunity,
Torah.
not if they're on the arts, obviously, maybe, and they had
They had the
ability.
opportunity, they had the ability, that the opportunity was accessible to them. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. There's 2 more points. We're starting to get late. Okay, number 1, you could ask a question. Okay, the neshama has to go to the Gehenim or whatever for rectification. But what about this concept of the neshama coming back down to this earth? So which one is it?
Okay.
So the answer is that a neshama is compared to a flame. And a flame, there's 2 things about a flame. Number 1, a flame always rises upwards. And number 2, a flame, if I want to light another candle, nothing gets diminished from the first one. So what happens is you have neshama number 1, who lived 120 years, comes up, goes this Gehenim, that Gehenim, whatever it needs, right? But from that neshama, there could be neshama 1A, neshama 1B that comes from it. Yeah, and nothing gets diminished from the first neshama. And then when neshama 1A comes down and rectifies, whatever it rectifies, it actually does benefit the original soul as well.
Oh, so you might not have to do all this stuff.
So there's no concept of a Gilgal?
No,
That is a Gilgal.
That's-
Neshama
that's not-
1A is a Gilgal. No.
there's only 600,000 neshamas that exist, so we're all good.
Yeah, the nesh-
Or on Shabbos, you're not Gilgal.
I don't know all the details, but basically there is a concept.
Yeah, there's not like.
There were 600,000 original neshamas, and then from all those neshamas, the other neshamas are Le'etzal.
Like, we don't
It-
even.
from-
These aren't part of the neshama.
But if I take a candle and I light another candle, now you have 2 equal candles. You have 2 equal flames. It's not the original, but it comes from the original one.
We always
Yeah.
say the separated,
Come on,
like having to be
I
recognized. I guess it's something kind of stay. Like our mutes or mutations of the original.
Yeah.
But we're gonna stay in the mute because.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Once a neshama comes from another neshama, then it just,
You're separated.
you're separated,
Yeah,
yeah.
you don't go back to that because you- well,
Not that
absolutely.
it's the same original.
I think we stay separated, right?
Parts
Mutation.
of it.
We stay separate, we don't
So
go
we
back.
have things like, oh, you have to go back down to earth to rectify.
pay.
Whatever. It's not the original neshama, it's a part of it.
Maybe the
It
whole,
is the
maybe they have to
original
clean out the
neshama.
whole
It's
like.
the original.
They left it, it's not.
That's where it came from.
That will make the original shaman does not have.
So that all these.
No, it's not, the neshama that has to go to Gehenna goes to the Gehenna, but again, the,
What's the big mistake in here?
that's what I'm saying, but still, that lost time, or that thing wasn't accomplished. The mitzvah still wasn't done.
One
We
we by
both.
that, the one we have the PNG were by Master Torah also, what does that mean?
I think only, like, I think like the mutation, the point about it, like.
So at Matan Torah, there only were 600,000 neshamas. They weren't more. Yeah.
You think it's not the same, because I'm then. Like that.
Candle.
Came from it, like a candle, except it mutes, like it
So
comes.
today there's millions in the shamans.
Yeah.
Because for imagine this. Imagine one neshama. If it's the same neshama that's coming up and down, up and down, up and down, what happens with Tchias HaMesim?
I always wonder that.
So therefore, so every time the neshama comes back down, it's in another body. It's another.
That's why I made up with my husband when Mashiach comes, no matter if he was married to someone else, we are staying together. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to some creep from 1800 years ago.
Right, there you go. So that's what I'm saying. That once that's why it's important to know.
Like that's it.
It's important for us to know that we are that even our neshama came down dozens of times. It's different. It's all from one original
Saying my
neshama, but
children are my children.
exactly. Okay.
Second marriage.
Second marriage is very nice. Second
But the
marriage.
woman is not a problem, because you can just come back and have a few husbands, not for the husband.
You know, a woman's the opposite. A woman, a man.
Is my husband gonna have many wives?
And anyways, I don't want my husband.
No, because every person that came down is their own body. Once the neshama comes,
No, that's what they wanna go back and have a-
No, maybe it's not different. No, it was married to someone else.
okay, we're running late. So I just want to finish, and then we can continue this. Then we can continue talking.
Maybe they
Okay. Okay. We'll.
Basically, like Karen said before, we don't have to get distracted by this talk. We just gotta do, we'll figure out where we will go with the.
Sign like they do in the Congress.
Okay.
That's what you have to do. Let us.
Okay.
Clear that.
Okay, yeah, a couple more things, couple more points. The Rebbe at Farbringens, when the Rebbe would speak on Shabbos, many times the Rebbe would speak about different people. For example, Kairach. For example, Miriam Bas Bilga. And the Rebbe would find good things to say about them, to like redeem their souls. So sometimes Kairach, it says that he went down into the pit, but went under the ground. But just by speaking positively about these neshamas, it frees them, and gives them salvation.
It said that by in the show, I forgot which Rosh Hashiva by one of the wars went about the Tever of Akshalan. And people were very angry at him. He was a big Rosh Hashiva and he went down by him. So people asked him, why are you going to Tever of Akshalan? He was such a Russia. Like, he wanted to kill his father. Like, you go down by a Rosh Hashiva. So he said, I go down by Tever Akshalan because when he died, David cried for him 8 times.
Wow.
And every time he cried for him, he was able to pull him out from Gehenna, from his neshama, from Gehenna, one level. And the 8th time he cried for him, he called him Beni, my son, he had so much pain. And the 8th time he cried for him, he pulled him into Gehenna.
Wow.
And he said, Hashem is a father of children. It's a father who, his child caused him so much grief and trouble and aggravation, could love his child who wanted to kill him so much. Surely Hashem, who's our father, could love us at least that much.
Absolutely.
At least that much. And he went to that and by Kever Shalom because he said, even a Russia has merit because he's calling so.
Absolutely.
Whatever, it's just another one of those,
You have to
Yeah.
tell them one day the story of Harry and Basbilga.
Okay.
Never heard of that.
Okay, I'll say very, very fast. Okay, Miriam Basbilga, she came from a family of Kayanim, and she actually married a Greek. And when it came time the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, she actually threw a shoe at the Mizbeach, and she said, call the Mizbeach a wolf. She said, wolf, wolf, how long will you devour the karbanis of the Yidden and not save them? And really, so the Rebbe, there's actually a whole amazing song about it, that this neshama was wandering for looking for a tikkun, and the Rebbe said about her, she said that this came, the fact that the fact that she threw a shoe at the mizbeach, it came from a deep love for the Yidden, and to find something positive about her. That's just, we could talk about that more later. Okay, so now okay, and as we said, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he said at his deathbed, he said he has no idea where he's going to be led. He said, what do you mean he doesn't know where he's going to be led? He's such a big tzaddik. Because he never took the time in his lifetime to think about what's going to happen after he passes away. So that the lesson is that we shouldn't be thinking about, I don't know where I'm going to be led, because he never took the time to think about what he did, what he didn't do. He was so busy serving Hashem that we have to be serving Hashem, not so much to worry about what's going to be in the world to come. Okay, now one more topic, which I'm going to try to speak about very, very quickly, and that is learning wisdom of the nations. What happens if a person wants to become a doctor, wants to become a lawyer, wants to become an engineer, wants to become a contractor? So there's other chachmas, there's wisdoms from the nations of the world. So here, it's not Dvarim B'Teilim. For Dvarim B'Teilim, we just have to, kafakela, just brush off the dust. It's not negative talk that you would need Gehenim Shel Eish. It's not a lack of learning Torah, that which would be Gehenim Shel Sheleg. Now we pride ourselves that we're a nation, that we're the people of the book, and all wisdom comes from Torah. But there's all different types of wisdoms out there, science and literature and all these kind of stuff that are wisdoms that, yes, it all comes from the Torah, but it's not so evident in the Torah. And where do all the other wisdoms of the world come from? What happened was there's like a big, powerful energy that all of a sudden it just bursts. And what happens is the shreds, the sharpening of this explosion is what all these other wisdoms are. So all the other wisdoms, they all have a seed, a kernel of the wisdom of Torah, and then it gets corrupted. There was a Hasidim, they were talking about which way of living, communism, democracy, all these kind of things, which one is closest to Torah? So each one of these philosophies, each one of these ways of life, whatever, they all originate, they all have a grain of truth from Torah, and then they get corrupted. So to learn secular subjects, so from here it seems to learn secular subjects is wrong, and it's tumah, and we should not do it. No college, etc., etc. But there is an exception. Technically, we should not be learning Chachma of the Goyim, and we have this concept of learning Al Taras HaKodesh, and therefore we send our children to yeshiva, where there are yeshivas where they don't teach secular subjects, and it is a very notable, wonderful way of living. But there is an exception for when a person could learn other wisdoms, and we have to understand why it's such a big deal. If let's say I want to make wine, and I take my feet and I step on grapes and to make wine, and then somehow maybe a non-Jewish person, I don't know, came and messed up the process, whatever it is, and now the wine is not kosher. So it's not such a big deal. My feet are fine. Nothing. There's no tshuva that my feet have to do. But a head is a different story. A head is a different story. If a person needs brain surgery, one bit of dust going into the brain is fatal. For if your feet go in the mud, not so bad. You can clean off your feet. Not so terrible. But the brain, the mind, that's what sets us apart from the animals. That is our crown of glory. And when we learn these wisdoms, we're putting this toxic stuff into our mind. So the only exception is if it's for the service of Hashem. And we have to be very honest about that. And you have the Rambam, and you have many, special people who were into medicine, who were into other wisdoms, and it was all only to serve Hashem. And if it's for serving Hashem, then it's okay. But if it's just for your own pleasure, then it's actually not okay. Yeah. Basically, the mind is very, very delicate and very, very sensitive. I'll just end with this example, which I already shared in the past. Two Hasidim with their bekasha and their shtreimel are walking past the river, and all of a sudden they see a woman is drowning. So one guy takes off his shtreimel and he jumps in and he saves this woman. Brings her onto the shore, and the ambulance comes and she's fine, and then they continue walking. 15 minutes later, the second chassid turns to the first chassid and he said, "I can't believe that you touched a woman." So what's going on? So the first chassid said, I saved her and I left her with the EMT and I forgot about it. But here you are still carrying the woman 15 minutes later because he's still thinking about her. He's still thinking about it. So our mind is so delicate and impressionable. And once you know something or think something, it shapes your view of the world. And it's something that we really, really have to protect. So if a person is inclined to medicine and and going to use it, and we need doctors and we need, we need engineers and we need lawyers and we need all this. So if a person has that talent, and it's not so easy to find the chachma in the Torah spelled out, so we're permitted to learn these kind of things, but a person has to always really, really be honest with themselves and know that it's really for Hashem. For example, this teenager, after he learned this with Rabbi Shishler, he said, "Oh, now that I'm so glad I learned this, now I'm going to go become a big millionaire. I'm going to buy the most fancy car, and I'm going to use the car to drive to shul." So you could drive to shul also, not such a fancy car. Versus a person who has a very, 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 very fancy house. This chassid had a very, very fancy house, and the other chassid are making fun of him. What do you need such a fancy house for? So he said, "I'll tell you why. There are Jews in the community, and that are influential, and they're the ones that make all the decisions about where the communal funds are going to go. If I have a fancy house, then they're going to want to have their meetings in my house, and they're going to have to include me. And then if they include me, I'm going to have a say for how to distribute the funds. So that is, yes, I have a fancy house, but use it for Hashem."
So if my son just likes to learn history, that's really seems off, according to what you're saying.
Unless you could figure out how I'm using learning history to
What's Paul Revere helping you?
He wants to.
No, he doesn't. He wants to learn history.
Yes, he wants to learn history. Why? He wants
He
to
likes
know.
information.
Right. And he's gonna use that as a how.
So how could he use that information to serve Hashem? You have to add. So we have to figure that out.
Anything that you learn in elementary school helping serve Hashem.
Right.
History.
You're learning about Hashem, history. It's about history.
What? I know.
Isn't that
Because
history?
America became a place of.
Yeah.
Like, why am I?
What happened? The British and the Americans fought, and
Yeah.
America became emancipated, and Baruch Hashem, we had a place.
The whole world.
You have to- Everything can be turned around.
But you have to have the mindfulness. You have to have this. Okay, one more sentence, and then and that's
Why
it.
do schools teacher.
Because you have to know, it's Hashem's world, we learn.
It's such a,
You're, you're gonna sharpen your brain so you can learn Gemara or whatever it is.
But Gemara
So if
is-
you don't have in mind, then we're going back to the beginning of the class. If it's just time wasting, then-
I don't know what to say. We don't know that.
No, my son learns when your axe is his accent. Honestly, I don't know when I could.
So that's.
but that is Hashem's will. That is Torah.
No, I
Hashem's will.
I spoke to my son so many times, and want the kids start with them.
But anything that was like in elementary school, really want to start.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't get it. They start with that and Ethan, and it's so, I wish they could turn it. This is
Are creating a healthy individual.
such a,
So careful.
That's
I mean,
the
education.
But there's
My brother agrees with me, but he says, I'm not gonna be the guy that stands up at the home store and say, let's change the curriculum. I'm not
They
gonna
don't connect to that, but my son also.
But everything in Torah, ox and all this kind of stuff, it's all there's many layers beneath it, what that really means.
But when you have young children and there's so much to learn, you can find something relevant to a
Yeah.
society. I mean, I started about
I was saying,
and Ethan.
they don't connect to, they
They're
try to.
sixth graders, they're itsy boys. Why are
They're taking the Gemara.
and about rape and incest, and I'm sorry, they're sixth graders, they're little boys.
Yeah.
It's not fair that that's what they're learning in sixth grade. On so many levels.
That's why I stopped doing school, like, I don't know, there's like some parts that connect. I'd say that boys and I used to try them, they told you that they didn't like art, but they weren't, they wanted to learn about accent. Yeah, but it's not enough, then just do it. And people
There's
that's
so,
relevant to that.
there's
Yeah.
so many different
Even though I
parties and so much interest and stories and fascinating. My husband sits by on the table and he said, there's a Gemara about Rabbi Yossi and he's sitting there like, why? The kids should be learning that. This is their Torah. This is what they're connecting with. Why aren't they
You
learning
know,
that?
it's a lot of.
No, do it.
And I spoke about that. I'm like, so he goes, he asked me, I'm not standing up on the soapbox and doing this, even though I agree with you wholeheartedly. This is not mine.
There are some yeshivas that don't, like the ones that live to the outside, the ones that are not as, there are some changes. Like my son also.
But mainstream,
Yeah, mainstream, not mainstream. Well, the world is starting to like shift a little bit, hopefully.
so, see how many boys are leaving?
So when they see the boys leave the system, then they go through. Yeah.
We're losing so many boys, so many boys, so many boys. Not, I'm not talking about Yiddish guys, they're leaving the yeshiva system. It's not talking to them.
Sure.
It's not talking to them.
But not.
We have to, you know what we have to do? We have to bring Hasidus into the system because all these things, but also every single word of Torah, it's not just a ox, gourd, but there's so many deeper explanations of what that means that is relevant.
Depends, you have to find there are shivas that now, but they got kind of, my kids are at different shivas.
You were allegiance. It's like going to 11th grade.
See what's happening to my kids.
Yeah. So they, she never.
And then in the
I think that they're starting to avoid shivas and it's getting better, like.
I want to say one last sentence. The last sentence I want to say is actually good news. And it was a couple of weeks ago. I was actually in Crown Heights for the conference. And I was actually on the bus, getting off the bus, go to the Ayal. And someone from the other class, her name is Suri Magid. She, Chani, can I speak to you? I said, just leave me a WhatsApp because I'm on the bus with a bunch of people. I could listen, So she said, I just purchased a new house in Jackson a few weeks ago, and I feel bad that I'm spending so much time decorating it and making it so nice. So I said, and she says, what's the Hasidic perspective? I said, Suri, you go all out, make that house as beautiful as possible, and then make it and use it all to serve Hashem, to have a class in your house, to Torah shiur in your house. Anyway, next thing I know, she wants us to have a Tanya class in her house. So we're gonna have a Tanya class in Jackson as well. I'll give you the exact address, but
It's like in Jackson there in Farmington.
yeah, Mirza Shem.
Where
You're
is that?
starting from Olive again?
No, I'm staying in the same place. Tuxedo something, 7 Tuxedo. We have to map it and see where it is exactly.
What day?
Wednesday morning in Mirza Shem.
So Wednesday morning, Wednesday night.
Very good.
Tanya, you're on fire, wow.
But that's the point. The point is we could use everything for.
7 Tuxedo.
Wow.
If I could close to my house, that
How
might be.
far is it? No, but
Okay, I'm gonna just end the class. Thank you so much, Chami, for joining us. The point is, it's all about being mindful. You could do anything if you're doing it for Hashem and you bring Hashem in, then it's okay. As long as it's not as long as it's not usher. But everything from a beautiful house to college to everything.
Something to not also.
There's Taras HaKodesh that we
No,
hold ourselves back.
with education, saying with not the beautiful house also.
So in these days,
Beautiful house and just use it.
in
There's
these,
something
but
to
again, you have to be honest. You have to be honest.
who
If
you
it's
are,
taka for Hashem, if it's taka for Hashem, if taka use it for Hashem, then because when it's a beautiful house and good food, then this will attract people to come. So when you,
Beautiful. He runs a Shabbos project in America.
Wow.
Every single Shabbos, he runs Shabbos in her house.
And it helps that it's beautiful.
yeah, it helps that it's beautiful. We have to use the beauty, use everything for Hashem. Okay, to be continued.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tanya, you go to.